Very strong thunderstorm right now here in Effingham, Illinois. Very strong. There was a cloud to ground strike that struck less than a quarter mile away. There was not even 2 seconds between the flash and the very loud boom. This is very loud thunder. Yep, this is the core right here. I'm looking at right there. There actually might be some hail with this. Very small if there is any hail. But this storm is producing a lot of lightning. Yep. Not sure how close that was. Less than a mile. That was about... Watch that Phillips 66 sign. It's probably going to get struck. Because look at it. Look how tall it is. A lot of these really tall objects are going to get struck. No hail. It could be that the core is missing me just to my north. But there definitely was an intense hail core on radar. I'm in Effingham, Illinois. This storm is not warned. Effingham, just east of St. Louis. It's where the hail core is. Go to the St. Louis radar or Springfield, or better yet, Springfield, Illinois. There's a radar site to my southwest or southeast. It shows very large hail, but the radar beam is over 6,000 feet. See, there was no hail, just heavy. There was just some heavy rain, big drops of rain, but no hail. Yep, no hail. So, storm is basically over. There's still going to be thunder and lightning, but the part that was supposed to drop the hail didn't. I mean, wait. Hold on. Okay, now the rain's getting heavy again. As for a hail, if it was hailing, I would have heard the bouncing and the pings. I mean, there's definitely hail with this aloft, higher up. That's why you're getting the big drops. Those big drops of rain could be melted hailstones. No, I'm in Effingham. The storm had a hail core and radar. These are elevated storms, Johnny. These storms are elevated. They're not surface-based. No, I'm not in the rain. I'm standing under a canopy. I'm just coming to see if there's any hail with this. No, our chase is actually over. Our last day of chasing was yesterday. Friday was actually our last day. Saturday was our today. Well, Saturday, and tomorrow. Well, technically it's already Sunday. Here comes the really heavy stuff. Radar show though was a hail core right over me. Yeah, looks like I was right. It's completely elevated. I mean, maybe some really small pieces might make it down to the surface. But yeah. Whoa, wait. Okay, okay, if there's gonna hail, it's gonna be now. If there's gonna be any hail, it's gonna be right now. Very heavy bursts of rain coming through. Yeah, you hear that thunder? That's why I'm not going out. Oh, I'm in Illinois, Johnny. I'm in Effingham, Illinois. I'm heading back to dorm. Yeah, it's just heavy. Wait, I hear the hail. I hear hail. I just heard some pings. Yeah, it's about pea size. Yeah, a lot of the hail is melting. Yeah, there's some hail. It's mixed with the rain. I heard some little, what sounded like sleet coming down. Yeah, but these storms are elevated. Their bases are really high up, meaning if there is any hail, it's going to melt before it reaches the ground. Or most of it is. I mean, yeah, there's some small hail coming down. It's really small, though. It's like, yeah, about pea size. Yep, it's hailing. I have hail, Johnny. Pea size hail. I mean, it looked really impressive on radar, but it was very high up, at an elevation of about 7,000 feet. It looked like there was a lot of hail with this, but really, it wasn't that much hail because when I for 30,000 feet, it wasn't much. Meaning that if there was any hail, it was only in a small corridor. That's why it's not big. It's very small hail. It was pea size. Yeah, I just had some pea size hail. Yeah. A lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, not much wind. Yeah, these are definitely elevated storms. Oh, that was kind of close. But right before I started the live stream, there was a cloud to ground. That was very close. It was about a quarter of a mile away. There was 2 seconds. I couldn't see the bolt. It probably was behind a building, but it was very loud. Yeah, you see these big drops? This is normally the part of the storm that would have the biggest hail because it's your tail end. But keep in mind that this storm is very elevated, meaning that any hail that does come out of the storm, if it's like anything smaller than penny size, it's probably going to melt almost all the way down. Because even hail about this big will mostly melt as it's falling. Normally, if hail is penny size when it comes out of 10,000 feet, by the time it falls, a terminal velocity with rain and wind, you're going to get a lot of melting. It'll probably land at maybe smaller than about pea size, maybe half inch size. Yeah, I'm going to make a report on Spotter Network of about pea size hail. Yeah, I'm going to make a spotter report or just a MPing report. Yeah, this isn't worthy of going to Spotter Network. So you're going to lose me for a moment. Don't leave. Damn, this cold just won't leave. I mean, I'm getting better. I'm going to be back. I'm not going to estimate. I'm not going to estimate. Yeah, the core of the hail missed me my north by about a couple miles. So if I was in the core, maybe the hail would have been, I don't know, dime size. But I was close enough to the core that a lot of it probably came over me as well. Because keep in mind, the radar beam height over me, like the base of the beam, is 7,000 feet. Because the nearest radar site is almost 100 miles away. This area is in a radar hole. Yeah. There is definitely a radar hole over me. And now there's just going to be steady rain. I'm going to go to sleep now because it's 1 a.m. where I am. Yeah. I'm using the hotel's Wi-Fi. Oh. Come on. All right, I'm going to go to bed now. Or wait, down too. There is a little bit of a secondary core just to my west. And these are kind of big. I just want to see if there's any hail with this. Woo! Wait, there might be some hail with this. Hold on. Nope. No hail. Yeah, just very heavy rain. Parts of Texas had gorilla hail today. There was a severe thunderstorm warning. Forget this. Grapefruit-sized hail. There was a grapefruit-sized hail report today. 5-inch hail today. There was DBZ, reflectivity above 80. DBZ stands for decibel, and then BZ stands for, so D stands for decibels, dB stands for dB stands for decibels, and Z stands for hertz. So 61 decihertz, dBz. 60, no, not 61, 81, 81, Johnny, for reflectivity. That signifies giant hail, like huge. I told my professor about the storm, about that storm system on Friday, but he said we're done chasing today. We're going to leave Saturday. He said we're not going to chase a derecho, and it really didn't become a derecho. It actually started as supercells. We actually would have had a really good time chasing today. I mean, there were no really any confirmed tornadoes in Texas, but still seeing the structure and seeing the leftover big hail on the ground afterwards, it would have been very rewarding. But get this, Johnny, I saw 7 tornadoes. 7 tornadoes. Well, 2 at the same time. I saw a wedge and a satellite. I saw a tornado on my first day chasing. We saw a funnel cloud that was about 25 miles away, technically touched down, and I saw a little bit of debris, so I considered that a tornado. That's one tornado. Then we saw another one the next day around the brownfield area. It's the same one that produced the La Mesa dust tornado, but it was different. It was like almost an hour before. Same supercell. We were on that same supercell for, get this, 5.5 hours on that La Mesa storm. It started near Leveland. The next day after the Leveland tornado, we had an off day because there were no thunderstorms forecast in our area, so we had an off day. Then we had more storms, and then we saw our next tornado, which was tornado number 3, 4, and 5 on the same day, which was Thursday. We saw a rope tornado as an RFD wrapped in, and 20 minutes later, we saw the wedge, the Morton wedge tornado, the same one that Reed Timmer was on. Reed Timmer was only 2-3 miles away from me. Different road, but he saw the same tornado, but he saw it from behind. We were in front of the tornado. Well, not in front. We were kind of to the side of the tornado. We were basically letting the storm chase us, but having a comfortable several mile distance. Our professor didn't want to get behind the tornado because, he was worried about big hail. He wanted to stay out of the hail because guess what? There was another storm chasing a company, not a school, who did exactly that. They followed the storm. They got blocked by power lines. They had to turn around, and they got into the hail that was wrapping around the wedge. And their side windows got destroyed. Their windshield was cracked, had several hail cracks in it. No penetration for the front windshield, but a lot of cracks. The side window for the second door, because those swing doors. So the second door, there were not the front passenger. So there's 2 sets of doors for the passenger that swings open. So the third door on the rear got its window destroyed. They had to put up a thing. It completely got destroyed. The rear passenger window got destroyed, but no one got hurt, thankfully. But yeah, and our professor said this is why we don't get so close to a tornado or to hail. Yeah, I mean, if I was in the Dominator, no problem, go to hail core punch that sucker, But when you're in a high profile vehicle that's prone to overturning, and you have 10 students in that car, then no, or not 10, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 students, then yes, you really should not be doing that. It's not safe. So our professor, while we're missing most of the action, like going into a core, it's safe. Safety comes first, especially when you're doing a research trip. Safety comes first. If you find excitement, great, but safety comes first. Sometimes you have to let the weather come to you. Like right now, I'm doing what you do, Johnny. I'm backyard chasing because I'm in a hotel. We're not chasing right now. We literally had to take a different road to avoid thunderstorms because we didn't want to get caught in the rain. We tried to observe the storm from the distance, not go in it. For all the storms that we saw, we only went inside one storm. We always tried to view the storm from a distance, 10, 15 miles away. All those great storm footages I captured was outside of the storm. We never went into the storms, especially the wedge tornado, that storm that produced that big wedge. We never went in the storm. We didn't see a drop of rain from that supercell, not a drop. We did get some heavy rain from a nudger storm. A nudger, it's called a nudger because it nudges the supercell. It nudges into the supercell. So we got into a nudger, which actually had a rotational eddy. But when we saw how quickly that eddy was rotating, the professor said, that's it, we have to go. But it didn't have, there was no RFD from it. But it could have become a supercell. That spin could have became a supercell, but it didn't, because it merged with the main storm. And right as the merger happened, a couple minutes later, it became a wedge. I'm going to estimate its size as 1 mile wide. About a mile wide. We were 3.5 miles away, and it was about this big. The wedge was about this big. This is how much of the sky it covered. And it was about 3 miles away. So, based on that estimate, I would say the condensation funnel was about 3/4 of a mile wide to the wind field, about 1 mile wide tornado. And next to it was a satellite. It didn't look like the condensation funnel was on the ground, but there was dust under it. So yeah, it was a tornado. Its rating, I'm gonna think it's gonna get an EF1, Johnny. It didn't hit any structures. There was no debris lofted. I think it's only gonna get a very weak rating, probably EF1 or EF2. Again, because no homes were damaged. It stayed in a very rural area. It might have hit a couple houses when it was crossing the main road, and if they rate that, it may get a higher rating. They may say EF3, EF4, only if it's based on damage. They're not going to estimate it by wind. If it didn't hit any structures, they might even give it an EFU or unassigned. They only base it on damage, like a tree, corn stalks. Most likely it will get a rating. I don't think it's going to be EFU. I think it's going to be rated as EF. Most likely, the maximum rating it may get is maybe a 3, but that's very unlikely. I think it's going to get a 1 or a 2, maybe even an EF0. But again, this is based on damage. If it was going to be based on wind, like how it used to be, by its maximum rating, probably EF4, maybe even EF5. I mean, this thing was a monster, Johnny. It was a wedge tornado. And that environment was very dry. It was all the way on the ground. The wedge, the condensation funnel was on the ground. And the LCLs that day did not support that much condensation that low, meaning it's going to get a very high rating. And it skirted the northern parts of Morton. It definitely probably hit some structures along the road that goes out of Morton. So I'm going to say this right now. That tornado was a monster. And it was on the ground for at least 20 minutes. And then that spawned another tornado different tornado, not the same one. It spawned another tornado it was a family tornado. It was tornado, then no tornado, then tornado again. The supercell that spawned out near the New Mexico Texas border, went just north of Morton. It hit it hit a town. It caused some pretty good damage where around something estates. Let me look up the town. It's no wedge, but the other tornado from the same supercell was just outside of Lubbock. It was called Reese Center, Reese center. You know, there were a couple overturned sheds, scaffolding torn up. Based on the damage that I saw, it was about EF2 at peak. We saw some EF2 level damage. The damage did look kind of straight line, like because a lot of the trees were bent to the northwest, but that could have been RFD from the tornado. And we continued driving east when we found more intense damage. Again, that could have been RV damage, and the tornado, from the looks of it, was further north. So if that was a tornado, again, could have been stronger. If you have such strong RFD winds that trees are being knocked down, sheds are being overturned, odds are that was probably the tornado. I'm going to have to look at velocity data to see if the tornado, if the couplet actually crossed the road. Odds are it did, because it did get confirmed, and we did see some power flashes. And it's a good thing we went south, otherwise we would have been hit by 100+ mile-an-hour winds on Thursday. So our professor made a very good call getting us out of there. Or we would have been hit by that tornado plus any big hailstones. But yeah, I'm now in Illinois. I'm going to be back in New York at this time tomorrow. Actually, I'm going to be back in New York at 11 p.m. tomorrow, or 10 p.m. York this time, Central Time. Anyway, I got to go. Thank you all for watching. Bye. I will be uploading more footage, both here and on TikTok. From now on, once I get, after I graduate college, I will be regularly storm chasing. This is going to be what I'm going to be doing for my career. This is because it's also a hobby of mine, but also doing this to keep people safe, but also just for the hobby. This is not like, for some people say shits and giggles. No, this is not for that. This is not just as a hobby. This is also to keep people safe, to understand how tornadoes form. That's why I'm trying to get a meteorology degree, and not just because there were a lot of chasers out there. Not chasers. I wouldn't call them chasers, because they were literally out there. There were so many people out there just looking at the tornado, pulled over on the side of the road, or everyone was just driving south. Like, we almost got hit by the storm because so many people were out there just, observing the storm. Not everyone out there was chasing the storm. Some of them were, because it was also rush hour, but they were pulled over to look at the storm, And on Friday, we almost got hit by another tornado. We weren't very close. We got close, and I mean close. It went from a very weak rotating wall cloud. It did produce a couple of dusters, a little dusty tornado. There was no condensation funnel. We never saw a funnel, but we did see a swirl right under the wall cloud, And then what happened was it interacted with the cold boundary from a Lubbock supercell that we failed to intercept. We weren't, none of the models forecasted this, but that Lubbock supercell ended up producing a very nice hook, ended up being tornado warned. I knew it was going to be tornado warned. I told the professor the moment the precip formed on the Lubbock storm, before it even got severe warned or special weather statement, I said, look, a storm over Lubbock, it's going up like crazy. He said it's too late. I mean, we wasted 20 minutes going west when we should have been going east after I told him about that supercell. If I think that if we went on the storm initially, like when I let him know about it, we would have had, gained 25 minutes, but we still would have been pretty far behind the storm, or we would have been we would have been very close to it. But again, we still got good observations of the storm regardless. We got to see a wall cloud. We got to see some good lightning. But then we went on the initial storm that he wanted to chase, the southern one. which was, near Morton, and it produced a very big, wide, but weak tornado. It was big. It was on its way on becoming a wedge. That's what the professor said. He said it's becoming a wedge. But that didn't happen because that boundary undercut the storm, and it's cut off its circulation, and it didn't become a wedge. But it almost did. It almost became a wedge. It was on the ground. There was a big weak, dusty circulation. And it was this close from becoming another monster. But it didn't, thank God, because it was heading into populated areas. Anyway, I gotta go. It's getting late. Good night, y'all. Good night.